Hello, 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 and welcome to the Peak Podcast. My name is Kyle Nelson. I've got my co-host, my good buddy, Mr. Eli Libby. What's going on, Mr. Libby?
Not much, man. It's good. It's a great Friday. We've got a lot of in-person engagements today, which I always love. I love podcast days, and I love in-person chats.
Oh, man, I agree.
We've got two good ones today.
Yes. All week's been pretty good.
It has been.
We've had a lot of good, great conversations this week.
A lot of gains.
Yes. We've talked to some very inspirational people this week and just building relationships, as any business owner shall do. Well, this is the Peak Podcast, where we dive into what that peak moment is in entrepreneurs and coaches, instructors, consultants. What was that peak moment where they felt like they had something that they wanted to make impact with in life? Maybe with that little spark of passion they finally found. And as you know, we are the co-founders of Peak Fulfillment. It is a self-guided solo retreat program and mastermind where you go 3 days wherever you find peace and work on self-discovery, self-reflection, and vision crafting. And then get yourself put into a 3-month program to work through those and stay accountable. But today, we have an awesome guest that's been a long time coming. We've built a great relationship with him so far. We're really excited to have him on. And today we have Mr. Rob Kam. He is the founder and CEO of OneSpeed and co-founder and co-founder. And what about OnScript AI? Co-founder and
partner.
That was what I was looking for.
Revenue officer. There you go. Yeah.
Rob, what's up, man? Welcome to the Peak
Hey,
Welcome
thank you, Eli and Kyle. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Heck yeah. And you're calling in from South Florida, right? 55 degrees this morning, a little cold.
Yeah. Balmy today, South Florida.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, yeah, man, you do not want to be where we are because it is freezing.
Yeah, it's cold in Central Florida.
Well, maybe
you guys are like diagonally across the country from
we
us,
are.
right?
Yeah, we're wearing
long flight
puffies. You got a long sweater on here, so
yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to open up and unpack your story. You've got a lot that you can share with our audience. So, first, tell us more about what you've got going. What is OneSpeed, and tell us about OnScript a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. So OneSpeed is a performance marketing agency. We specialize in business to consumer lead generation in a handful of industries, mostly health insurance.
Okay.
We do a lot of lead generation via our call centers where we're connecting consumers to our end buyers who are mostly health insurance agencies. We also do
Don't think that was us.
Little technical difficulty. Nope, there he is. There you are.
Hey, there he is.
I'm back.
Back. Did your monitor fall over?
Went wrong. I'm back. So I think where I left off was talking about some of the other elements of OneSpeed. Do some consulting as well, organizational leadership, referral-based consulting as well. We also have some owned and operated web properties that are also lead generation sites. And then OnScript is a really cool technology business. It's an AI-powered platform that helps call centers figure out why their agents are the best and why they're the worst agents are the worst, and has a lot of other analytics that we give our clients on calls, really clean reporting, and that's what we do.
Right on. Wow.
Busy guy.
Amazing tool. Yeah, busy guy.
Well, I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
What can I say?
All right. Are we?
Well, Rob, what got you into OneSpeed? Why OneSpeed? How did that? What was the evolution of getting into that?
Yeah, so I had always had the dream of having my own business and being an entrepreneur. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, totally.
Sorry. I'd always have that dream inside of me to one day have my own business. My father had his own company, and coming up in the ranks of digital marketing, affiliate marketing, lead generation, I felt like I had paid my dues. Before OneSpeed, I worked for a very large media agency. We went public in 2020. And I had this burning flame and desire inside of me to one day go out on my own. and finally, in 2023, May, I made the leap. I made the leap of faith, and that's when I started OneSpeed. Why OneSpeed? Back in New Jersey, where I grew up, my trainer at the boxing gym I trained at used to just say, "Hey, man, you just only know one speed."
Yeah.
And he's right. For better or for worse, you know,
Yeah.
when I do things, I just feel like I just go hard, I go big, and again, for better or for worse, there's only that one speed inside of me. So
Yeah.
that's why OneSpeed.
What a cool origin, man. Thanks for sharing that. So you
Yeah.
you had a safety net. You were working with this big public company at the time, and that wasn't that long ago. What was it like to cut the safety net and go all in on something? Like, what did that feel like for you? Were you nervous? Were you uncomfortable? What were you scared of? What were your
Excited, stoked,
fears?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
were the
mean,
emotions like during that time?
all of the above, right? You guys said it. You know, you go from an environment where you've got, you know, a guaranteed
Sure.
paycheck every month, and you know, the decisions that you're making and the problems that you're solving and the
Yeah.
mistakes that you're making are yours, but you know, they're not really yours because it's not your company. So I remember, you know, I had by the time I left my former company and the time that I actually resigned, I had a pretty long transition period because I wanted to transition out the right way, right? I have a lot of respect and love for my former boss, one of the founders, and my team underneath me, and so I had a long period of time between when I was decided to leave and when my last day was, and then even further than that, I chose to take some time off in between um, my previous company and OneSpeed just to clear my head. You know, public company life, managing a team of 60, 70 people, as you can imagine, it was a lot, and I loved it, but it was a lot, and I needed to chill. So at the point that I got back into figuring out what I wanted to do, it was around August, and by that time, I was mostly excited. I didn't have a big team. I didn't have a lot of operational expenses to carry. I had, you know, money put away, so that was not really an issue. I could really just focus on building the business. So of course, I had fears and doubts. I think that's natural at any point in somebody's career, whether they're working for themselves or working for someone else. But I think the biggest feeling that I had was excitement, um, and really just feeling that freedom, right, to work. I say the three W's: work with who I want, on what I want, when I want. Was really empowering and really motivating. Um, it's funny because you fast forward to now. I think I have now. I've got a bigger team. I've got a lot of responsibility. We got a lot of mouths to feed. I think, you know, that you know, self pressure.
Yeah.
You know, I feel it more than I did even when I first started. If that makes sense. So those are my feelings. But I was prepared. You know, it was a long time coming, and I had these moments of wanting to leave, right? But my business coach, my father-in-law, they gave me good guidance on that. They said, "Hey, Rob, if you're not 100% in your heart and your head on a big decision, career,
Yeah.
family, if you have one inkling of doubt, stay where you are."
Sure.
And over time, you know,
Nice.
over the 2 years previously, when I actually made the decision to leave, I had those feelings, right? Of, okay, I want to leave, but for whatever reason, it wasn't 100%. So I stayed put until I was 100%. So at the point that I was 100%, I feel like I was prepared. I was ready to take that next step and make that jump. And I also knew in the back of my head, like based on my track record, my connections, that if for whatever reason I was not successful, that I could fall back into working for somebody else, right? So
Always be able to make
that was my that was my sentiment.
Well, that's cool. It sounds like you enjoy change. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think I have learned to embrace change
Yep.
and comfortability
Yep.
more as I've gotten older. But I'm certainly a creature of habit. So I
Mhm.
think I don't know if I would say like I enjoy change. I'm more open to it now.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy like habits and
Yeah.
not necessarily like monotony, right? But just getting into a nice rhythm of how I do things and live my life. But yeah, I'm not afraid of change.
It's interesting how what Rob you just described is a very classic case that comes through our doors at Peak Fulfillment Coaching, is when there's somebody kind of, and Rob, we talked about this too in the pre-show, but when there's somebody kind of stuck or they want to go after something, but they're lacking clarity. There's too much fog in their life and they don't know that direction, whether they don't know their core values or their purpose to make that decision easier. We have a lot of people that come through our door and go on a retreat and they discover that. And then it's just floodgates, man. The doors are open and they take that leap.
Right. And even filtering the noise, even if you did, you were able to spend some time, like let's say you do transition out of that job into a business and you're trying to figure that out, you still need this transitional time to get rid of the rest of the noise. The rest of the noise could be friends, family, the news, like all of that extra stuff, just in solitude to really break down, okay, here's my plan. This is what I'm going to do. I feel really good about this moving forward.
Exactly. That's cool. Go for it.
So, as we've kind of got to know you a little bit, Rob, you did share with us, some difficult times you went through in life, some things that you kind of felt like kind of prepared you and shaped you for who you are today. Would you be hoping to kind of sharing a few of those things with everybody?
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, I think look, everybody has challenges and difficulties in life. Certainly, I've had my fair share from a young kid. I think the part that we had spoken about, earlier was I had a nervous breakdown, and this was back in 2019. I was at my previous company, and a whole bunch of things kind of happened at once. Really over the course of 3 months. The business performance in my division that I was overseeing wasn't going the way that we wanted. Some things that were out of our control, some things that were in our control. But at the time, we were not public, but we were trying to exit, and we had private equity money, and there was a lot of pressure, especially at the top. And I think that's common at any large company. The executives carry the weight of the company on their shoulders, and I had issues in my head about compensation, and of course, part of the compensation was variable compensation based on the performance of the division, and there were some challenges there. Beyond work, I was dealing with some family issues. Wife, family, not unique there, of course, right? And I was also had 2 little kids that were under 3, so. As anybody with 2 little kids under 3, it's a lot, right? Emotionally, physically, mentally draining. Just getting through that stage, right, of parenting, and it all kind of happened at once, and I lost, for lack of a better word, I really lost my mind. Like I was not myself. I couldn't think. It started at like having like some brain like fog that I remember when I left my office, because we were all back in the office back then, pre-COVID. It would like dissipate like as soon as I would get into the car, but then it just never went away, and I kept ruminating on not my reality, right? Just what I thought was my reality, and projecting out into the future of what I thought could be possible, but was not probable, right? But it was my reality, right? And I couldn't communicate. I couldn't think straight. I was telling my wife that we were going to be on the streets. I thought people were on my roof. I'm not kidding. Yeah, it was really, and it was something that I had never experienced. And I had other things in my life that I had to deal with, addiction, things like that I'd overcome. Nothing was like this. Like when I battled my addiction, like my head, like I could think, right? I wasn't making the best decisions. I was addicted, right? But I had my mind. Here I did not. It was really scary, and it was really scary for my wife, who was seeing me every day. So that's what happened. It started around August of 2019 and really hit the head around Thanksgiving of 2019. So before COVID, little did we know what was going to happen a couple months later. But when I came back from Thanksgiving, I was just a different person, and it was very clear that if I didn't do something, it was only going to get worse. And luckily, my company, everybody saw it. I mean, you couldn't not see it. I remember I had to give a budget presentation for 2020, and I was just like a deer in headlights. Like it was so bad. So my company was very, very kind to me and very empathetic, and my boss, and they wanted me back, right? They wanted the old Rob back, but this Rob couldn't do any work, and I think they needed to make sure to protect their asset, their company, right? That and people on my team. So I took some time off of work. I think that was really important, right? To your guys' point, sometimes just taking a break, right? That was the first step. I needed to clear the work part, and with the understanding that when I felt ready, and we didn't put a timeline on it, that they were open to taking me back in, right? So I checked that box off. Okay, now I can just focus on what's going on in my head and myself. And I started with intense therapy. I was seeing a therapist, just getting my feelings out, and that was something that I hadn't done in a long time. I'm in my head a lot, so just having an impartial person that I could speak to was very helpful. I sought some non-traditional treatments. I don't know if I can speak freely on here. I was pushed to take a ketamine treatment down in Miami, and that was pretty. That was a point of what I remember in the process of coming out of my fog, where I got some real clarity, and I remember coming out of like my third session there, I started to really find this inner voice inside of me. Because one of the things my whole life, I'd been a people pleaser. I'd been afraid to really speak my mind and stand up for what I wanted and what I believed in, if it was contrary to a friend, business, a client, my wife, right? My parents, whatever. And coming out of that, I slowly but surely started to be like, okay, like listen to your inner voice, and don't be afraid to speak for what you want and what you believe in. It was very funny because when I came back to work, I almost came back like a bull in a china shop, where I was being too honest, right? And not soft about how I was communicating the message. But that was a real point of clarity for me. So I took about a month off. When I was at work for the last like 6 weeks from taking, I wasn't really able to function. But I took about a month off over the New Year's. I came back in towards the end of January. And honestly, I faked it till I made it, right? I just showed up. I continued with therapy. I continued working on myself.
Beautiful.
And I really focused on my headspace, what I was telling myself, right? Self-talk, right? And creating the reality that I wanted. At that point, I was also introduced to my business coach, who remains my business coach.
That's awesome.
I was really appreciative that my company allowed me to work with one of my founders and bosses, business coaches, and he was very helpful, right? And continuing to get me to speak about what I wanted and how I felt, but more importantly, like teach me and help me practice how I deliver messages and how I get participation and buy-in and collaboration. And slowly but surely, it was probably about 6 weeks from when I came back in that I started to feel good, and then we started to get some tailwinds in the business, and I started to build confidence, and stack back, working at the same time with my wife and my family, because we had a lot of things that we needed to sort through. I created real chaos in my house, with my family, that needed to be repaired and rebuilt, and still is something that we're working on today, right? Together. But, where I landed and what I've realized, things happen for us, right? Like when I look back at any of these challenges that have happened in my life, when I come out of it and I can really diagnose, okay, like what went on,
Sure.
I've always found that there is at least one lesson and one gift that if you are open to receiving, you will get. It's almost like, if you're spiritual, like God like puts these things in your life because you need to experience them and overcome them, right? To grow,
We
to grow.
agree with you more.
Yeah. So in that instance, the lesson for me, which was one of the most valuable lessons I've learned, was like to believe, right, in my inner voice, and
Sure.
to not be shy about speaking up for myself, what I want, and just being more straightforward with those things, and not afraid to speak
Yeah.
my mind, even if I'm going to be met with some disagreement or some contention, right? Or so yeah, that was huge for me. That was huge for me, and it was a stepping stone of what I needed to further my career, take the next step to entrepreneurship, starting my own business, help with my wife and my family as well, right? So yeah,
Right on.
I spoke a lot.
No, please.
Oh, it's your
Thank
story,
you for
man.
sharing that story. That's a deep one, and thanks for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that, man. And it makes sense to where you are today. I mean, those gifts that you have, the things that you learned during that hard period, a lot of people don't learn that because they don't either put themselves in that situation or they didn't have that experience that you did. So that gift that you came forward with, I think, is really powerful. You can only connect the dots backward, and you've done a great job of that.
And seeking help is pretty hard to do.
It is hard to
It's
do.
very hard to do, and
especially as men.
As men, it's very difficult. And you did it in so many different ways, whether it was your leadership,
Mhm.
it was business coach, it was
Yep.
therapy, it was ketamine, like all those different
Yeah.
facets of that. Like it takes a lot just to keep going.
It does.
And seeing,
Yeah.
as you keep walking through that reflective month of your life, like you were saying, that tunnel vision, that light just starts so small, but once you see it, you can just slowly see it become a bigger light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, we never really get to the end.
No,
We're always
You're
working on it.
chasing the
But
pursuit.
as long as you can continue pursuing, because there's moments where we kind of stop pursuing. Like you said, you had complete nervous breakdown, like everything.
Yeah.
I've been there too. And that's when, that fog of that light comes in, and it can get really difficult.
I think the most important, 100%, and I think one of the most important things that you're doing today, or at least maybe you've realized, and that we work with people so much on, is to continue to practice it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you let up on the pedal, you could slip maybe back into where you are, but you have enough self-discipline and self-awareness to what you did in those times. And that's the biggest thing for our students, is helping them be accountability partners, just being a soundboard for them to keep them accountable. So
I think being open-minded, like, I was willing to try anything.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I don't know what's going to come of it, but I've got to be open-minded to try many different things to get me out of that funk.
Exactly.
And even when you're out of the funk, like, being open-minded to anything in life, right, is a very good way to approach things.
Exactly.
It's very funny. The big transition for me, leaving my previous company, I got targeted for some Instagram ads for this hypnotist. And he's like, man, I spoke with him. He's like, we remove limiting beliefs. I know that's a big part of what you guys do. Right. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to try this. And sure enough, for whatever reason, I started that in February of 2023, and I completed the program in April. And a month later, I was flying up to my boss to have a very great conversation where I was like, hey, man, it's my time. Right. So
awesome.
I don't know what else to attribute that to other than the fact that we all have limiting beliefs, right? Like the human brain, I feel like, takes us to a place of negativity, right? And fight or flight, right? and through life experiences, right? We just have limiting beliefs about ourselves, right? Imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough. All these things happen to me, and if you're open to
Yeah.
these types of systems, tools, it's amazing what can happen if you just have that faith and belief that maybe something's going to work, right? But if you're not open-minded and you're not willing to try new things, you may not get what you're looking for in life.
Absolutely.
So true, man.
Well, thanks for all the inspiration on
this
this
is awesome.
podcast, Rob. It would really appreciate when people open up and they're vulnerable, because there's so many people out there that are going through what you've gone through and what we've gone through.
Yep.
And they just need to hear that,
Yeah.
you choose to work on yourself. There is the end.
Exactly.
You don't have to be stuck where you're at. So thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. And I would just say to anybody, like, if you need help, like, it's tough to wave the white flag and surrender.
Yep. Absolutely.
Great
with
advice.
Anything. But once you do, life can become easier, to have that vulnerability and that honesty with yourself, about yourself, to yourself. And thank you guys for having me. And I hope you guys have a nice rest of your day and a great weekend, and happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays.
Yeah, you as well, man. And before we jump off, if people did want to connect with you, maybe that's some interest in one of your businesses, or just kind of get to know you a little bit, where could they find you and get connected?
Yeah, sure. You can certainly find me on LinkedIn, Robert Camhe. You can go to either one of my company websites, www.speed.co, www.onscript.ai. And my emails are just rob@onespeed.co or rob@onscript.ai. And I thank you for that. That's how you can reach me.
Thanks, Rob. We appreciate
Rob,
you.
you're the man.
We'll definitely keep in touch.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Whew, what a
that
story.
was so cool, man.
Wow.
I loved
What a story.
I love the story. I love the transparency.
Yeah.
And people I think until you go through a story like that, you don't really open up to people. But that was part of his healing process.
That I was just going to say, part of the process for me to get through what I was getting through, and when I felt like I kind of got through it, there still was that process of I need to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff I went through, and it's so powerful, and it helps so many people get a frame of mind.
It really does. Hopefully you can build some self-confidence too, just by talking to people.
Absolutely.
And he hopefully became the street light to light other people's paths.
100%.
With what they went through.
I think just maybe through this podcast as well.
It's true.
A lot of people need to hear it.
It's very true.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Peak Podcast. Another great episode and great guest as always. And if you would like to listen to more episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button to anywhere you listen to podcasts, and hit the notification button to get those notifications when they're live. Thank you so much. And we can't wait for the next convo for you to join us on the Peak Podcast.